Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eva van Wenenda-Rawicz. I lead on education sector at Department for International Trade team at the British Embassy in Warsaw, Poland. I have the honor to be the chair of today's event, and I'm really delighted that you joined us to talk about the UK transnational education partnerships in Central Europe today. So a warm welcome from very cold and frosty Warsaw today. And I'll now pass the floor to Jamie Arrowsmith, who hopefully gives you also a warm welcome from the UK, a bit warmer UK. Jamie, the floor is yours. Thank you.
No, thank you, Eva, and good morning, everyone. To Ambassador Baker, Minister, and to all of the fantastic speakers and colleagues we have joining us today. As Director of Universities UK International, I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's event, the Virtual UK Transnational Education Mission to Central Europe. We're pleased to see over 100 attendees have registered today from 5 different countries. As an organisation, Universities UK International exists to support our members to develop and deliver their own international strategies. And transnational education is absolutely central to that mission. The partnerships that our universities have across the world help many hundreds of thousands of learners to access higher education and training. And it ensures that we're able to build reciprocal collaborations that foster the talent that's necessary to address local, national, and indeed global challenges. And Europe is and must remain central to all of our international work. Thankfully, the traditions of partnership and collaboration between our countries are deep, and they do have a long history. And it's fantastic to see so many colleagues from Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Slovakia are attending this event today. I think it signals a real mutual desire to explore the possibilities for expanding relations between all of our countries and indeed all of our universities. And also a desire to both build new partnerships and to strengthen those connections that we already have. I hope that today's session helps us to better understand the opportunities that lie ahead to develop truly impactful transnational education partnerships. And I trust it will prove to be a catalyst for many conversations about how we can move forward together. So I'd really like to just thank everyone who's made today's event possible, our colleagues from the UK and overseas governments, to our speakers and experts who'll be sharing their stories and sharing their insights, and of course to the UUKI events team who've helped to make this event possible, and to everyone who's contributed. But finally, of course, thank you to you, all of our delegates, for joining today's session. I wish the event every success, and I very much look forward to an inspiring and thought-provoking day. So thank you, and I will now invite His Majesty's Ambassador, Mr. Nigel Baker, to offer his remarks. Mr. Ambassador, please.
Thank you very much indeed, and good morning, everybody. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nigel Baker. I'm His Majesty's Ambassador to Slovakia, but I'm also Champion Ambassador for our cross-government education campaign across Central Europe, which for the purposes of the campaign include not only the countries that are represented here today, but also Albania, Bosnia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Romania, Serbia, and Slovenia. It's a real pleasure for me, I have to say, to be here to open this event on UK transnational education partnerships in Central Europe. I'm personally really passionately believe that the ties we forge as students, researchers, and educators are the essential glue that bind our countries together. I come across so many Slovaks, for example, here who have studied at different times in the UK. So I'm delighted that we are joined by so many participants from across UK, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary today, interested to learn more and talk about this exciting topic. So welcome, everybody. I'd like to give a special welcome to Deputy Minister Wojciech Mudzik from the Polish Ministry of Education and Science, and to thank our partner, Universities UK International, for co-organising this event. A few words about transnational education as an introduction. I mean, it's influenced the nature and structure of higher education provision throughout the world, including, of course, here in Europe. And it's really become an important part of the process of internationalizing of higher education in recent years, which of course has seen an increasingly globalized environment. And I think is a key strategy for higher education institutions to secure prestige, competitive status, and competitive edge across this very, very competitive sector. In a sense, transnational education offers significant mutual benefits for transnational education partners, including capacity building, broader student choice, your offer effectively to your students, and enhancing innovation and competitiveness. But there are also, of course, some challenges unique to managing TNE transnational education collaboration. And I'm sure we'll hear both about benefits and challenges during this session. So why the UK in particular? Well, first of all, the UK is the second largest provider of international education with a 10% share of the global market. It's also a leading provider of transnational education programs offered by a really wide range of higher education institutions and using a very wide variety of delivery models. As it happens, 2020-2021, where we have the last statistics, was a record-breaking year for UK transnational education. There are 162 UK higher education providers, and they had over 510,000 students, almost 13% more than in the previous year on TNE programs, applying for UK awards. That's the highest figure to date, and it's still growing. The UK was the second, the EU was the second largest region after Asia for UK transnational education. And thanks to it, students worldwide are obtaining British degrees across almost all subject areas of study, part-time and full-time, but closer to where they reside. So it's more affordable, more accessible for them than completing full studies in the UK, which I think is also particularly interesting for many students since the UK left the European Union. And as I said earlier, there's real demand we see from your students. Some of you may have seen the recently published British Council report on EU transnational education demand for British education, focusing on those challenges and opportunities. Yes, there are other challenges since EU exit, and the report identifies them, from increased cost to extra bureaucracy. But it's also really clear that the EU, and especially, I think, Central European students, continue to perceive UK higher education as a high-quality study destination for themselves, and in fact, a preferred destination for many. UK higher education institutions continue to be amongst the top preferred partners for establishing multi-directional participatory forms of TNE. In other words, collaborative design, delivery and management and academic programs. UK universities really want to work with you partner universities in putting these programs together. And the UK continues to remain one of the top research collaborators for most EU countries. Number 3, I think, in Poland, for example. And I believe there's a lot of talk about Horizon, but I believe a solution on Horizon seems to be potentially in sight, which would be great news. On the other side of the coin, Central Europe is a dynamic region, open to innovation, a huge pool of talent, fantastic universities, and really strong prospects for growth. There are already some really good examples of UK, Central Europe transnational education activities, but I think there's room for many, many more. And we want to see more initiatives, more links between universities, more TNE partnerships. So I'm really pleased that today there'll be 4 universities that will share their experience on how they overcame some of the challenges, seized the opportunities and established successful TNE partnerships and collaboration with the UK. And I really hope these will inspire in a very practical way those of you online, the universities online who haven't yet tried this. So I hope that today's event is going to be the start of a lot of inspiring discussions, which will lead practically to new TNE partnerships between UK and Central Europe. I think there's so much that binds us, and TNE really should be another element in that. So thank you all for joining today, and I hope you have an inspiring and successful day today.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for this excellent introduction. May I now give the floor to the Minister Wojciech Murdzek from the Polish Ministry of Education and Science. Mr. Minister, the floor is yours.
Dzień dobry, witam serdecznie wszystkich. Była mowa o mroźnej Warszawie, ale trzeba dodać, że słonecznej Warszawie. Pozdrawiam.
Good morning and welcome everybody. You've mentioned saying hello from frosty Warsaw. Well, it is frosty, but it's also full of sunshine today.
Mogę przede wszystkim wyrazić satysfakcję z dzisiejszego spotkania. Dziękuję za zaproszenie, bo jest to rzeczywiście formuła, która odzwierciedla naszą wspólną troskę, taką prorozwojową, taką troskę i chęć patrzenia w przyszłość.
I'm very satisfied about this meeting and thank you very much indeed for inviting me here, because I think the fact that we are here clearly reflects our growth mindset and our being oriented towards the future.
Mogę potwierdzić, że rzeczywiście wśród polskich studentów, wśród polskich naukowców, a tym samym też jeśli chodzi o podmioty związane ze szkolnictwem wyższym i nauką, zainteresowanie Wielką Brytanią, wszelkie aktywności, wszelkie kontakty są bardzo wysoko cenione.
I can only confirm that there's a very high interest among Polish students, scholars and education entities in peer institutions and in the UK.
I tym, którzy przyczyniają się, żeby przekładać to zainteresowanie na konkrety, też bardzo serdecznie dziękuję i zachęcam do tego, żeby tych aktywności było jeszcze dużo więcej.
And I'd like to thank everybody who contributes to turning the interest into specific activities, and we are counting for more. We are hoping for more.
Takim dobrym przykładem dobrego pomysłu intensywnej pracy, myślę, że w ciągu tych ostatnich lat to jest aktywność Polsko-Brytyjskiego Forum Naukowego i koncentracja właśnie na takich tematach, które są bardzo aktualne i które są wspólnymi wyzwaniami. Tutaj przykładem są zagadnienia klimatyczne, zagadnienia cyberbezpieczeństwa.
A very good example of a very concrete collaboration that's been going on for some years already is the Polish-British Science Forum. Where among the topics handled, there are some very up-to-date issues and challenges like climate change and cybersecurity.
Ale życie w ostatnich czasach nas nie rozpieszcza i stanęliśmy wspólnie przed takimi wyzwaniami, które były związane z pandemią COVID-u. Teraz przeżywamy wszyscy ten dramat wojny na Ukrainie z wszelkimi skutkami. No i to są wyzwania, które są w pierwszej kolejności dedykowane i podejmowane przez polityków, ale siłą rzeczy na polskim przykładzie przyjęcie milionowej liczby uchodźców pokazuje, że też całe społeczeństwa reagują. W tym nie może i nie brakuje nauki.
But the reality has been a bit hard on us in recent years. First, we were hit by COVID-19 pandemic, and then the war came in Ukraine. Of course, you might say that they are predominantly challenges out there for politicians to tackle, but they are also challenges to tackle by the society at large, which has been very clearly shown in Poland by receiving millions of refugees from Ukraine. It pertains to the whole society, and education and science being very much part of it.
Ale tutaj jest wielka spójność działań. Widzimy, jak bardzo zgodnie w stosunku do wojny na Ukrainie zachowują się nasze rządy. Myślę tutaj o Wielkiej Brytanii w pierwszej kolejności i Polsce, ale też wszystkie państwa Europy Środkowej no, jednoznacznie podejmują te wyzwanie, a ono wprost zahacza o ten wymiar edukacji, nauki. Jak Państwo wiecie, w Polsce jest w tej chwili kilkaset tysięcy dzieci, młodzieży. W tym jest też grupa 30 blisko 1000 studentów z Ukrainy studiujących na polskich uczelniach i kilkuset naukowców, którzy musieli opuścić Ukrainę i mogą swoją pracę naukową, badawczą kontynuować na uczelniach i instytucjach badawczych w Polsce.
However, everything that we do together, and we do in a very cohesive and coherent way. I mean, what the Polish and the UK governments do and how they react to the war in Ukraine. I also mean a very concerted effort on the part of all Central European countries in reaction to the war in Ukraine. It is all very much related to the realm of education and science. After all, you may know that at present there are hundreds of thousands of young people, young students in Poland, young students from Ukraine in Poland. There are more than 30,000 Ukrainian university students in Poland who can continue their education at Polish universities, and there are also several hundred Ukrainian researchers residing in Poland now and able to continue their research activity in Poland.
I oczywiście życząc, żeby ta wojna się jak najszybciej skończyła, wiemy, że już dzisiaj są pytania o sposób, zakres wsparcia Ukrainy w odbudowie tego, co zostało zniszczone, i tu niewątpliwie będzie bardzo szeroka przestrzeń do zaangażowania świata nauki.
Well, of course, we want the war to end as soon as possible, but already now we hear questions about possible support for Ukraine reconstruction. And it will be very much related to education, teaching and science too.
Ale no, taką informacją z ostatnich godzin jest dramat związany z trzęsieniem ziemi w Turcji. No i tak się składa, że 2 dni temu ogłosiliśmy uruchomienie kierunku ratownictwa medycznego w Wyższej Szkole Pożarnictwa. Zbieżność, ale pokazująca, jak życie takie normalne z jego wyzwaniami przeplata się z tym życiem właśnie w przestrzeni nauki, w przestrzeni funkcjonowania szkół wyższych.
However, very recently we've heard about the huge tragedy of the Turkey earthquake. And by sheer coincidence, 2 days ago, we announced a new course at the University of Fire Brigades in Warsaw, a course in medical rescue. It might be a coincidence, you might call it a coincidence, but it very nicely shows how life follows how education and how higher education follows life and life developments.
No i mamy wreszcie wiele takich wspólnych wyzwań, bo przecież Europa nie może zostać w tyle za Stanami Zjednoczonymi, za krajami z Azji, jeśli chodzi na przykład o technologie kwantowe. A tutaj no, wydaje się, że pojawia się takie ryzyko i musimy zwiększyć nasz wysiłek, wspólny wysiłek, międzynarodowy wysiłek, szczególnie na tym poziomie europejskim, żeby właśnie być na bieżąco tych wyzwań. Takich wyzwań jest więcej, bo cała kwestia odnawialnych źródeł energii, energetyka jako taka, zagadnienia klimatyczne, zagadnienia tak bardzo priorytetowe w związku choćby z COVID-em i tutaj wszelkie medyczne nauki, kwestia biotechnologii. No ta lista jest bardzo, bardzo długa i ona już nie może być listą szukania rozwiązań w poszczególnych krajach. To już od wielu lat jest lista wyzwań międzynarodowych, wyzwań globalnych.
But we also share some areas of challenge. We have a lot in common. For instance, we in Europe cannot afford to lag behind the US and Asia when it comes to the development and deployment of quantum technology. And there is such a risk, so we have to act now. We have to take a joint effort, and it has to be international because Europe has to stay afloat and has to keep up. Also, very much the same can be said about other areas like renewable energy or the energy sector in general. Climate protection, or in the wake of the recent COVID pandemic, medicine, biotechnology, all these areas require a concerted effort on the part of our respective countries, but it has to be transnational. We have to act together because we are responding to global challenges.
Dlatego stoimy przed wyzwaniami, jak tą współpracę międzynarodową intensyfikować, jak mądrze wybierać te najważniejsze przestrzenie i jak dobierać narzędzia, które temu służą. Choćby dyskusja dotycząca otwartej nauki i wszelkie z tym związane zagadnienia, dyskusja takiej szczególnie ważnej w rozwoju europejskiej nauki, dyskusja o dużych instalacjach badawczych. Cieszymy się, że tutaj na przykład ta przestrzeń współpracy jest ulokowana w takim ośrodku jak CERN. To jest przykład bardzo dobrej międzynarodowej współpracy i zaangażowań naukowców. Mamy szereg w Polsce, ale w każdym kraju instytucji, które wspierają naukę, wspierają badania, rozwój. W naszym przypadku to jest Narodowa Agencja Wymiany Akademickiej albo takie instytucje jak Narodowe Centrum Nauki, jak Narodowe Centrum Badań i Rozwoju, i plus uczelnie, które wykazują wyraźne zwiększenie aktywności w tych wymiarach kontaktów międzynarodowych, choćby poprzez uniwersytety europejskie. W związku z tym jest duża przestrzeń, wszędzie coś się ciekawego dzieje. Pytanie właśnie, jak jeszcze bardziej intensyfikować te kontakty i jak rzeczywiście dbać o uspołecznienie efektów tej pracy naukowców, funkcjonowania szkół wyższych, żeby społeczeństwa wprost widziały ten związek nauka, rozwiązywanie problemów cywilizacyjnych, poprawa jakości funkcjonowania, jakości naszego życia.
Our international, transnational cooperation has to be intensified, and the question is how to do it, what area to prioritize and what tools to use. After all, we've got many areas to cover: open education and open science, large research facilities, and here the Swiss CERN is a very good example of a large multinational research project and research facility. There are many institutions in Poland supporting science, supporting education and international cooperation in education. There are institutions like the National Agency for Academic Exchange or the National R&D Center, National Science Center, and there are the universities which are very active when it comes to international cooperation, especially with European universities. So a lot has been going on recently, a lot is still going on, only we need to intensify the contacts, intensify the collaboration, and we have to make the society at large see the link between science and education, higher civilization level and higher quality of life.
Widać, że przestrzeń do zagospodarowania jest bardzo duża. Życzę, żeby dzisiejsze rozmowy, dzisiejsze spotkanie przyniosło jak najwięcej konkretnych owoców, takich, które dadzą się jak najszybciej wcielać w życie i będą temu wszystkiemu, o czym mówimy, jak najlepiej służyły. Dobrych rozmów, dobrego dnia.
So clearly there's a lot to do for all of us. I hope this meeting today and the conversations we are going to have will bear fruit and will bring concrete results that will be able to be deployed as fast as possible. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very good day.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Minister, for the excellent opening. And now I'm delighted to ask Dr. Susanna Tomasi, Higher Education Specialist at Department for International Trade in London, and Joanna Wessel, Head of Transnational Education at Universities UK International, to speak about various aspects of transnational education in the UK. Ladies, the floor is yours. Dr. Tomasi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So hello and good morning. I'll kickstart this session. So my name is Susanna Tomasi, and I'm the Higher Education Specialist in the UK Department for Business and Trade, which is our new name as of Tuesday this week. So I'm very excited to be here with you today and to contribute to the UK TNE mission to Central Europe. So as I said, this session will be co-delivered with my lovely colleague Joanna, Head of TNE at Universities UK International. So I'll kickstart with a quick overview of the UK policy perspective on education, a quick update on the UK International Education Strategy, and a brief talk about the UK HE sector overall. And I'll also talk about the benefits of TNE, which I hope will inspire colleagues across this virtual room to set up new and expand their existing links in the region. So as you can see on the slide, our department is responsible for delivering 4 priority outcomes. So essentially, we are here to secure UK and global prosperity by promoting and financing international trade and investment, and also championing free trade. So I'm part of the education sector team, and our team works with international trade advisors and the overseas network at Post to help the education sector to find partners and investors overseas. We also work closely with devolved administrations, various sector bodies, as well as with partner governments overseas to understand their economy, their education and training needs as well as their skills gaps. We also work with international organizations, universities, and other education providers to help them find partners in the UK. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in terms of our work focusing on international education, along with the Department for Education, we co-led the development of the UK International Education Strategy. So the strategy was originally published in 2019 with further updates released in February 2021 and then May 2022, so last year. So the first update saw us set the path for the education sector to move from the COVID pandemic recovery to sustainable growth, while the second update is really more about consolidation. Now, the strategy set out two key ambitions to achieve by 2030. So the first one is to drive up the value of education exports to £35 billion per year. And the second one is to sustainably increase international higher education student numbers to 600,000 per year. And both of them are on the slide on your screen. So the good news is that for the first time, we have met the second target for enrollments, and that happened in the academic year 2020-2021, and then again in the following year. Now, obviously, the bad news is that it makes it look as if that was easy, and colleagues involved in international recruitment will for sure agree with me that it's far from being an easy activity. Right, so if we move to the next slide. Thank you. So the strategy also supports the growth and expansion of UK transnational education, known as TNE, and Mr. Ambassador has already referred to TNE in his opening remarks. So briefly, TNE can be defined as education delivered in a country other than the country in which the awarding institution is based. So obviously, in our case, UK TNE refers to UK degree programs delivered in countries outside of the UK. And on the slide, you can see 3 TNE specific actions that were published in the International Education Strategy, which essentially can be summarized as our intent to provide better insight into potential markets for both new and existing providers, and to improve the overall evidence base around best practice and impact. And another thing worth flagging up is that we really want to proactively encourage the sector to grow TNE by engaging in dialogue with different countries and sharing global opportunities for TNE exhibitions, webinars, and engagement sessions such as this one. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide. I would now like to very briefly tell you a few words about the UK HE sector, which hopefully will be of interest to our colleagues from Central Europe. So in 2020-2021, there were 170 publicly funded HE providers in the UK, which that excludes alternative providers, and they enrolled approximately 2.66 million students, with further details obviously presented on the slide. I want to flag up or highlight a few things. So first of all, our HE sector works very closely with business and industry. So for example, in the same period, over 4,500 new graduate startups and 167 new university-owned or part-owned spin-off companies were created. Another aspect worth highlighting are our close links between UK universities and the regions. So for example, in the academic year 2018-19, universities across the UK generated £95 billion in gross output for the economy and combined £52 billion to GDP. And the sector also supported more than 815,000 jobs across England alone. So in terms of research, the 2021 Research Excellence Framework ranked 36% of the research submitted as world leading, and further 47% as internationally excellent. So I think these are fantastic results for our universities. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we work very closely to support and promote diversification and sustainable sector growth, including TNE, as well as the capacity building with partners overseas. So while Jana will shortly focus on the scale of UK TNE, different models and modes of delivery, I would like to spend some time focusing on the benefits of TNE partnerships and linking with UK universities. So I would like to start with the fact that TNE partnerships add the economic and reputational value to both partners. So this is about partnership. It's not about one side benefiting from such an agreement. And these sort of partnerships also make a significant contribution to the education, research, and culture environment of their host countries. I like to think, and certainly there is evidence to support that TNE partnerships enrich teaching and offer access to English curriculum. They also attract students who are keen on foreign degrees, yet are unable to go abroad, either for cultural, personal, or sometimes even financial reasons. So essentially on the practical level, studying in their home country tends to be more affordable, and many students are also able to combine studies with part-time work or other personal or often family responsibilities. And then upon successful completion of their studies, students following UK TNE programs receive UK qualifications, which are obviously recognized worldwide, and as part of their studies, they develop global mindsets. What is really interesting, there is evidence that suggests that students with foreign qualifications are more attractive to local employers and are also seen as more employable. Now, from the institutional perspective, there are opportunities for multi-level engagement and introduction of various fringe activities such as staff and student exchanges, summer schools, joint projects, online international learning, and so on. And I think it's also worth highlighting that TNE partnerships tend to lead to brand enrichment, offer an opportunity to build staff capacity and expand, obviously, their skill sets, set up and expand research and development, foster knowledge exchange, enhance academic quality, and so on. So institutions working in partnership with UK providers are very often multicultural, and I like to think that they are a bit like a melting pot, embracing cultural diversity and sensitivity. And I think that this in return often attracts new academic and commercial deals. And then very briefly, from the national level, TNE partnerships fit into regional economic and education development plans. So they tend to attract international students who are happy to travel within the region, but perhaps do not wish or are unable to go further afield. They also tend to attract foreign staff keen to be part of a TNE venture. So in that sense, TNE partnerships can be seen as the way to internationalize national higher education sectors, individual institutions, and obviously their curriculum. And those institutions, well, they benefit financially, culturally, and academically from the international environment that they're able to create through TNE efforts. So next slide, please. So thank you. So as you can see, there is a multitude of benefits of TNE to host nations and local partners. And obviously our UK universities are experts in this field, and we've got many universities attending this event. So our HE sector is leading on TNE worldwide, and our universities have years and years of experience that I'm sure they're happy to share. So as a practitioner and somebody who has been involved in TNE for about 17 years, I could easily talk about the benefits of TNE for the next few hours. Unfortunately, I think that would upset my lovely colleagues who organize this event. So given that we have so many excellent speakers. I think it's only fair to ask them to share their international HE experience with us. So I really hope that this event will strengthen the education links between our countries and will result in exciting new opportunities. So Joanna, over to you.
Thanks, Susanna. And good morning, everyone. My name is Joanna. I'm the head of transnational education at Universities UK International. And I would like to say thank you to my colleagues, Valentina and Alex, for putting this event together with Eva from DIT in Warsaw. So thank you so much for all the hard work you put in here today. I thought it might be helpful to briefly cover what Universities UK does and is. So Universities UK is a membership organisation, and we represent 140 universities across all 4 UK nations, so across Scotland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales. And Universities UK International specifically is part of the UK family of organisations, and in the UK and abroad, we connect higher education leaders, we share insights, influence policy and create opportunities. So basically, we're the collective voice of UK universities on an international stage. And one of our strategic aims is supporting the development of sustainable and scalable transnational education, which you can see in bold on the slide. In our work, as I mentioned before, we work closely with higher education institutions, we work closely with sector organizations and with government departments like the Department for Business and Trade to protect and build upon the UK higher education sector's world-leading position. And our core activities include regional and thematic networks. For example, Valentina leads on our Europe network, which is open to members. But we also have a transnational education e-group, which is open to members and non-members alike. We publish insights and publications, and the scale of UK higher education, transnational education was already mentioned. This is our flagship report for the TNE program of work. And we also put on events like this one today and our International Higher Education Forum, which is open to members and non-members, is happening at the end of this month. In terms of TNE, I think we've heard a few times already what TNE is. At UKI, we understand transnational education as an umbrella term, and it describes UK degrees and programs that are delivered outside the UK. And because it's such a huge term, it can incorporate very different types of provision of TNE. So for example, partnerships like joint and dual degrees or franchised and validated provision. It can include online and distance learning, and the probably most visible type of TNE, physical presences or overseas campuses. In 2020-2021, there were 510,835 TNE, UK TNE students studying in over 228 countries and territories around the world. And these were reported by the largest number of UK providers ever, 162. So a lot of UK institutions are involved in transnational education, and you can find UK TNE students pretty much all over the world. We'll have a closer look at where exactly those are based. On the left-hand side of the graph, you can see that the blue line is Asia. So most of UK TNE students are based in Asia, almost 50%. And around 80,000 UK TNE students are based in Europe, in the European Union, which is the second top host region. And on the right-hand side, please note the change in scale. You can see that a lower number of UK TNE students are based in the other regions, and the lowest number of UK TNE students are based in Australasia and South America, which host around 3,000 UK TNE students each. I already mentioned that TNE is an umbrella term and includes a lot of different types of TNE provision. And this graph really shows a little bit of what the spread is of UK TNE students across the different types of provision. And I just want to highlight a few of them. So collaborative provision at the bottom in the dark blue color is the largest proportion of UK TNE, around 40% of UK TNE students study via collaborative provision. And again, this can be dual and joint degrees. This also includes franchised validated provision and joint PhD programs, for example. In the top right-hand corner, you see in purple, distance flexible or distributed learning, which is the second most popular type of TNE provision. Around 30% of all UK TNE students study via distance flexible or distributed learning. And just to illustrate, overseas campuses on the bottom left-hand side in teal make up around 7% of the UK TNE students. In terms of level of study, most UK TNE students, around 2/3, study at undergraduate level, 1/3 study for a master's degree, and only around 1.5% of UK TNE students study for a postgraduate research degree. When we have a closer look at UK TNE in Central Europe, we can see that in Hungary, for example, there were, in the last academic year, 2021-2022, there were around 1,700 UK TNE students studying towards a UK degree. Most of them were registered at an overseas partner organization. That's the tall yellow bar. In Poland, there were around 870 UK TNE students, just over half of them studying via distance flexible or distributed learning. Just under half of them were registered at an overseas partner organization. And very few, 40 of the UK TNE students in Poland were studying via collaborative provision. In the Czech Republic, there were around 705 UK TNE students with an almost even spread across all 3 different types of provision. And in Slovakia, there were 140 UK TNE students, the vast majority studying via distance flexible or distributed learning. I was asked to go into a bit more detail around developing partnerships with UK TNE students, with UK TNE. So I just put down on the slide a few characteristics of what we have found and heard institutions say make up successful TNE partnerships. On the one hand, a clear regulatory and legislative framework in the country where TNE provision is planned to be set up really helps. It helps give UK universities and also the partner clear guidelines of what is expected, what they can do and can't do. The partner matching is really important. So getting an understanding of the own institutional capability and the partner's capability, but also the aspirations on both sides. Of course, due diligence is really important. When partnerships are real partnerships and have a mutual benefit, these tend to be more sustainable and more successful in the long run. And other important characteristics are a good communication, a clear understanding of expectations on both sides, and trust. So what next? I would recommend to have a look at some of our reports. UK TNE is really vast, and 162 providers reported UK TNE students, and you probably have as many different partnerships in UK TNE as well. So the first report, Transnational Education, Global Location, Local Innovation, really provides a good overview of the different types of partnerships and can give some inspiration of what is possible and to develop your own partnerships as well. We have further data available on our website, and the report that I mentioned before is also linked to on this slide. And you're welcome to join UKI's TNE e-group, which is a monthly newsletter outlining TNE events, publications, and partnership opportunities. And I'm sure that the slides will be shared with you afterwards, so you can access all those links. I was also asked to provide some practical ideas on what to do next if you're interested in partnering with a UK institution. And our suggestion would be to first get a good idea of what TNE is, read up on the different types of TNE partnerships that are possible, and then think about institutional strengths and needs and what are your unique selling points. What does your institution want to get out of a partnership, and what type of partnership would most suitable fit these objectives? Then the probably hardest task is identifying a suitable partner, and this would be really helpful to look at the best partner in the proposed subject area and the type of TNE provision that you're looking for, because not all UK institutions offer the same subject areas, and not all UK institutions that you may know also offer or are interested in transnational education. We prepared a note on how to assess UK universities and how to find out about them, and we have a whole list of our members on our website, which we can link to as well, which is a useful starting point. And then, of course, you're more than welcome to contact us and share any questions you may have or discuss your partnership request, and we can share it as well via the TNE group to get it out to our UK university members and spread the word with them. We can also help you connect with institutions specifically that you're interested in. And I hope this was helpful. I'm happy to take any questions, and you can also always contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Joanna and Susanna, for your excellent presentations. We have received 2 questions. I think that, Joanna, you've partially sort of responded to the first question, but let me read it. It's how do UUKI and DIT, or as Susanna rightly noticed, as of 2 days ago, DBT, support UK universities build TNE partnerships abroad? So I think you've just talked about it, but maybe you would like to add to this question. And shall we take the first question first, and then I'll read the second one?
Yes. Can you just say, is this coming from a UK institution asking the question, or from someone?
I can't see who it is coming from. Sorry.
Okay. It depends a little
sure.
bit. I think I answered the question partly already, but we're for overseas universities, UUK is basically a gateway to the UK higher education sector. So if you don't know where to start, you can come to us and we can guide you a little bit on where to start. We can provide more information on the UK higher education sector in general, and specifically on transnational education. And we can also let you know what may be useful to have in a partnership proposal that then will be attractive to UK institutions and be tailored enough so UK institutions can quickly assess whether this is in their interest or not, and whether it may be worth looking further and considering other UK institutions.
Thank you, Joanna. And Susanna, would you like to complement, to add to this response?
Sure. So yes, I think Joanna's counter question was a good one. Obviously, we work slightly differently with the UK sector and slightly differently with our international colleagues. I think I have briefly covered the answer to this question in my session. Essentially, we help to matchmake institutions. We also provide a lot of market information to our UK colleagues interested in international TNE partnerships. We have a network of contacts around the world across embassies and other sector bodies, so we can help with that. We can provide additional information on sometimes specific institutions, sometimes specific markets, and to a certain extent we can do the same for our international colleagues. So we tend to help with various events, incoming delegations. We had a massive delegation, 60 people last week. This week we've got another delegation. We can help with introductions. We help with promoting specific opportunities through our website. So a bit like Joanna, although probably slightly different sort of format and slightly different emphasis. And obviously our department and UUKI will work very closely together.
Thank you very much to both of you. And the second question is, what is the impact of Brexit on UK-EU TNE collaboration? That's quite a big question.
That is a very big question. Since I'm unmuted, perhaps I'll carry on talking. So in real terms, Brexit probably doesn't have well, I think it depends on different perspectives. So obviously there is a question, legislative question on recognition of qualifications, because obviously we are no longer a part of the European Union, so the automatic recognition of qualifications doesn't apply anymore. But having said that, several governments worked with our government very closely, and we've got specific agreements related to that. I think the level of interest among international students in the UK education hasn't decreased. Obviously, we've got some complications related to the pandemic and how we kind of differentiate between the impact of both. That's a big question to a lot of scientists on both sides of the border. But essentially, I think our initial research shows that the interest is still there. Students still want to complete foreign qualifications, and I believe we've got our next speakers who probably will touch base on that and will share their experience. So perhaps we shouldn't sort of say too much about that, because I fear we might spoil their slides and their presentations.
Very nice. Fantastic. Thank you so much to both of you, as I said, for your excellent presentations again. And it's my pleasure now to announce our next speaker, who is Dr. Artur Kołodziejczyk-Skowron, Senior Specialist at Department for Programs for Scientists at the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange. We'll hear from Artur about the Polish higher education system and the agency programs supporting international collaboration. And I would like to add that, yes, after this presentation, there'll be a moment to ask questions, to answer questions. And so I would like to encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, to pose your questions in the either Q&A space or a chat bar, whichever is most convenient. Without further ado, Dr. Kołodziejczyk-Skowron, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation to this charming, interesting meeting. And I'm glad to see here in the audience as well our Slovak and British friends. Good to see you, even in the virtual reality. Many thanks for your introduction. Everything is correct. My name is Artur Kołodziejczyk-Skowron, and I have a pleasure to present the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange. I'm a senior specialist in the Department of the Programs for Scientists. So later I will tell you a little bit more about the aims of the agency and our programs portfolio related to as well mobility to or from the UK to or from Poland. But I've noticed that my time slot is quite short. So of course, I think that this is completely understandable that my presentation related to the Polish higher education landscape will be typical introduction, because this is such a broad topic, of course. So let me start. So honestly, I need to tell you that a few days ago in my social media, I found a very interesting ranking of the best cakes from all around the world. And I'm very glad and I'm very happy that the Polish Sernik is on the second position. So it could be a good reason to come here and to study here or conduct your research, and as well to taste Polish Sernik. But there are more reasons to study or conduct your research here in Poland. So as you see on the slide, being a student, but not just a student, but as well a researcher in Poland can be as well a fascinating and joyful experience. First and foremost, because of the students' exchange programs, not just operated by the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange, but as well because of the local partnerships between some universities. And the second factor and the second reason is the internships and easy combination of work and study offered by the many universities in Poland. And third one, I think that as well very important, reduced to zero tax for students under 26 years old. But please know that, of course, before the pandemic, Warsaw was the first, the most affordable European student city according to the US Best Student Cities Index. So we are very glad and very proud of it. And we, of course, well, we've noticed that the upward trends related to the internationalization of the Polish science and Polish universities was very significant. Of course, the time of the pandemic of the COVID-19 stopped it a little bit, but we are still trying to do our best to make it still stronger. So the higher education system in Poland is as well very similar to the European Union, all around the European Union. So this is the typical Bologna process. So after the Matura certificate, there's two possible paths. The long cycle finished by the master degree, or first the bachelor and the later the master degree. And after that, this is the doctoral studies. Maybe for now, this is the moment for some numbers of my friends from the research unit of the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange. So we have more than 1 million. This is the total number of students in Poland. Among them, approximately 80,000. This is the number of scientists in Poland. And more than 28,000 approximately. This is the total number of PhD students in Poland. 369, this is the number of universities in Poland, and among them 115, this is the number of research institutes, and 70, this is institutes of the Polish Academy of Science. And we can offer you almost 15,000 number of fields of study in Poland, and among of them more than 600, this is the number of fields of study in English. So I think that this is a good opportunity for transnational education and as well for the academic exchange. If we are talking about studying English, our budget is approximately this is 28 billion zloty, approximately 6 billion euro. This is overall budget for science and higher education in Poland in 2022, of course. So right now, let me present you top 20 study programs chosen by foreign students, but please know that 3 of them are very clear. First and foremost, this is management. The second, this is medicine. The third one, this is the computer science, but you can see as well here kind of internal security, tourism and recreation, economics, nursing, psychology, and others. But management, medicine, and computer science are absolutely the winners of top chosen study programs by our foreign students. So, of course, after brutal Russian aggression on independent Ukraine, the number of students, foreign students, especially from Ukraine, increased. Right now, as I told you, we have almost 29,000. This is the total number of PhD students in Poland, but including more than 1,000. This is international participants of doctoral schools, but many of students, as well many of the PhD candidates and many of the researchers comes from Ukraine. If we are talking about the numbers of students, researchers, and PhD candidates in Poland. What about top chosen by foreign students universities in Poland? According to our research, first and foremost, Vistula University of Finance and Business, then University of Internal Security in Łódź. And third one is the oldest university in Poland and one of the oldest in this part of Europe, the Jagiellonian University in Kraków. And then Academy of Economics and Humanities in Warsaw, University of Warsaw, WSB Academy, Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań, Wincenty Pol Academy of Applied Sciences in Lublin, University of Łódź, and Warsaw School of Economics. But what about the academic teachers? So top 20 countries, this is situation, this is the data from 2021. of course, the first position is Ukraine, then Germany, Italy, India, and the rest. As I told you, the trend was increased, of course, before the situation of COVID-19. I think that it was the global problem because this situation and the problem of pandemia stopped all the academic exchange all around the world, and it was as well new opportunity for the agencies like the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange to find kind of a new schemes of support international cooperation if you are talking about the science and academies, and as well to find the new paths of kind of emergency support schemes. If you are interested in this topic, you can I can tell you a little bit more about our emergency schemes later in the Q&A session, like urgency grants program or solidarity with Ukraine or solidarity with Belarus. So foreign academic teachers by scientific domain in Poland, first and foremost, this is exact and natural sciences, then social sciences, and third one, this is humanities. Well, I am a philosopher, so I'm glad to see that the third position, this is the humanities, and I'm very glad of that. But of course, this is engineering and technical sciences as well, medical science and health science, arts and agriculture sciences. So right now, let me tell you briefly about the NAWA programs, but NAWA, it means nothing in English because this is an acronym of the Polish version of the name Narodowa Agencja Wymiany Akademickiej, in English, Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange. This agency was established 5 years ago to strengthen Polish science and internationalization, which right now today is a truism and is a fact. Academic mobility is a basic element right now of the science and academic life. Therefore, we hope that our portfolio, our program portfolio, corresponds very strict to the needs of the science right now and the higher education institutions' problems or challenges as well. Therefore, our departments in the agency, this is Department of the Programs for the Scientists, Department of the Programs for Institutions, Department of the Programs for Students, Department of the Polish Language, because one of the aim of the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange is to promote Polish language abroad, and another department, this is Department of Recognition of Diploma. This is as well our task. So if you are talking about the programs for students, more than 4,000, this is the number of beneficiaries of NAWA programs addressed to students. And in our portfolio, later I will present you QR codes to websites, and all details related to each program will be available over there. But first, let me just mention about some programs addressed to students. Poland, My First Choice program is the program organized by the Department of Programs for the Students. And this is a good opportunity to start your study in Poland. The second program, this is Stefan Banach, and moreover, Anders program and exchange program for students and scientists as part of bilateral cooperation, offer for incoming students and as well scientists. What about the program of scientists as well? As you see, 1,000 and even half, this is the number of beneficiaries of NAWA programs addressed to scientists. And we have programs which allow our beneficiaries to go abroad to conduct their research, or to have a kind of a fellowship, or to come to Poland to conduct here in our higher education institutions some research, etc. And this is the Polish Returns program. I will present more details a little bit later. The NAWA program, I have a pleasure to be coordinator of this program, so I will present you more details as well. The Becker program, this is the program not just for the people with the PhD, but as well for the PhD candidates. The ULAM NAWA program, and the program ULAM is addressed first and foremost for the scientists with the PhD who would like to conduct in Poland some of research and for the researchers from abroad, and NAVA urgency grants. This is kind of a unique offer of the agency, like our agency, because this is the program addressed for the researchers who would like, with the partnerships with foreign institutions or foreign scientists, to check sudden phenomena which appeared somewhere all around the world, like, I don't know, explosion of the volcano. And this is short process of evaluation of the application to allow the researchers conduct their research exactly in the place where the sudden phenomena occurred. So right now, let me tell you a little bit more about the Polish Returns Program, inbound program. This is allowing prominent Polish scientists to return to the country and take up employment in Polish higher education institutions. Very similar is the Navature program. This is the program addressed first and foremost to leading researchers according to the findings of the European Commission. So it must be scientists with groundbreaking publications supporting the highest quality scientific and research, as well as didactic activities conducted by Polish academic and scientific units, by including world-class foreign scientists in these activities. In both of these programs, we have a cooperation with the Polish National Science Center, and we can offer kind of research component for the basic research. And the Becker program, this is outbound program. This is the support the international mobility of PhD students, scientists, and academic teachers. There is a possibility to go abroad and conduct the research, and many of the beneficiaries of the Becker program decided to go to the universities in the United Kingdom and conduct over their research, or to have kind of classes with the students over there. And the United Kingdom is a very popular destination for the beneficiaries of the Becker program in each edition of this program. The next program, this is, as I told you before, the ULAM program. The aim of the program is increasing the internationalization of Polish institution of science and higher education, because there is a possibility to have researchers from abroad, and they are allowed to conduct here in Poland their research, and the agency pay them kind of a scholarship monthly. So if we are talking about the programs of for institutions, one of the most important programs is the program Welcome to Poland, because in the frame of this program is possible to create at the universities kind of hubs dedicated for the students and researchers. It's a kind of the first contact point for them, and welcome points helps them to, I don't know, to find a dormitory in Poland, to find a kind of insurance in Poland. This is the help desk for the incoming students and incoming researchers to make them stay in Poland easier and more comfortable. So I mentioned about two hubs, I mean websites. The first, this is Ready Study Go Poland. And this website is a hub for students planning to study in Poland. All details related to the relocation to Poland, about the specific studies. There is a list of Polish universities and higher education institutions, as well as the faculties. This is the presentation as well of available scholarship offers. You can scan the QR code and visit the website Ready Study Go Poland. This is, as I wrote, the search engine for majors and universities. And the second hub, this is Research in Poland. This hub is first and foremost dedicated for the researchers, so for the PhD candidates and more. This is a key information concerning the Polish system of higher education and organization of their stay, as well the portfolio of possible scholarships or grants offered by the Polish institutions like National Science Center, National Center for Development and Research, or the Polish National Agency for academic exchange, but as well for the European grants. And this is to promote the achievements of Polish science through the success story component. So many case studies you can find in this website, the research in Poland. I can recommend you especially both of them, Ready Study Go Poland and Research in Poland. If you will have any more questions, feel free to contact me, not just related to the programs for the scientists, but as well any other program. Feel free, send me a message via email and I will be happy to help you. Many thanks.
Thank you so much for such a comprehensive and a very interesting presentation of the coordinated government. And I've got two questions, if I may. The first one is from your agency perspective, what are the internationalization priorities of Polish universities? Maybe we'll start with this first one.
Of course, yes. So right now we have, let me tell about a few challenges. First and foremost, the tense situation in eastern part of Europe. And this is as well the field for the internationalization, but in the perspective of help for the scientists and students. And if I told you that the pandemic started in the agency like NAVA to think in another way, not just to offer the regular programs to support the scientists, but as well we have to be more focused on the sudden phenomena, sudden situations occurred all around the world. So that's why we created two programs. The first of them, this is the Solidarity with Belarus. And it is a program dedicated for the first and foremost our Belarusian friends, and we are helping them to conduct their research in Poland. And as well, the program Solidarity with Ukraine. We help many of the students from the Ukraine and as well the researchers to relocate to Poland to calmly study here and conduct their research. So I think that this is the first challenge for the internationalization in perspective of emergency situation, yes.
Thank you very much. So these are the key priorities, we would say, at the moment due to the current circumstances. Thank you. And the second question, what is the perception of UK transnational education amongst Polish universities? I'm not sure if you're in a position.
Yeah, so I can tell you just in my experience, in the experience of the Department of Program for Scientists, I'm working in the agency since 3 years. And I'm completely sure that the United Kingdom is very often chosen by our beneficiaries, as I told you. So many of our beneficiaries decided to go, I don't know, for 3 months just, or for 1 year, or for 2 years to conduct in the frame of, for example, Becker program, to conduct over the program, their research in the frame of the programs. But we are still open for the researchers from UK in the frames of transnational education, of course. And I think that this is the situation, and this is possible in the frames of the program like Polish Returns, but not just, but as well in the Novature program. And we have some scientists from UK in Poland as a visiting scientist from the UK, and they are conducting here their research, and they established project groups, and they're working together in the frames of this internationalization and transnational education. But of course, we are still open for any other possibility of cooperation. That's why we are very happy to be in touch with our British partners, not just from the British Embassy in Warsaw, but as well from the British Council in Warsaw.
Fantastic, thank you. And maybe the last question from me. So if a British scientist would like to find out how exactly he or she can work with your organization, I understand they can contact you or the hubs, the hubs that
Research
you've indicated.
in Poland, yes. Research in Poland is especially dedicated for researchers, I mean, PhD candidates and PhDs. Ready Study Go Poland, this is the hub dedicated for the students or for the people who thinking where to start their study or where to go for, I don't know, 1 term or 1 year.
Excellent. Thank you so much again.
Many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And now may I invite the next speaker, please, before a short break. After this presentation, we'll have a short break. But before that, I'm delighted to announce Dr. Janet Ilieva, founder and director of Education Insight. And Dr. Ilieva will share her research findings about UK transnational education in Central Europe and much more in her presentation. And again, I would like to encourage you to ask questions. There will be an opportunity to ask questions after the presentation. So thank you, Dr. Ilieva. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eva, for the kind invitation. And hello, everyone. I'm really excited and delighted to join today's conversation on transnational education partnerships and collaborations between the UK and Central European institutions. Education Insight is an education consultancy which specializes in global engagement and sustainable development between universities and between nations. And in today's slides, I will cover the highlights of several research projects that bring to the fore the collaborations or the state of engagement in the space of transnational education between the UK and selected Central European countries. Next slide, please. Thank you. And next slide, please. As Joanna and Susanna highlighted earlier, the scope of transnational education is huge. And the significant advantage that it offers is that it brings education to where the students are. And on this map, which is actually borrowed from the UK's Higher Education Statistics Agency, it shows the location of those students. So the majority of them would be based in Asia and in Europe. The highest concentration is in Greece, Cyprus, and to a degree in Germany. Central Europe, in terms of transnational education engagement, is comparatively smaller, only in relation to the size of the higher education sector. We heard from Arthur earlier about the size of the Polish higher education sector, and as such, it highlights how opportunity space is for engagement. Hungary is the only country where the transnational education population exceeds 1,000 students, with almost 1,500 students being enrolled on UK courses, or courses that lead to UK qualification and degrees. Next slide, please. What to me became quite apparent in the presentation that Joanna gave earlier is the sheer nature of UK transnational education is to work in partnerships or to reach out and deliver education in students' location. We do that in collaboration with local universities. So almost 40% of the UK programs delivered overseas are happening in international partnerships. So globally, this is roughly 40%, or that is the type of provision with the largest market share in terms of types of programs. If we look at TNE programs delivered in the EU, I apologize, the slides look slightly well, interesting. The size of collaborative provision in Europe is significantly smaller. In the EU, that is 29%. It's not very clear, but that is the percentage sign should read 29. Whereas in Central Europe, and by Central Europe here we are covering Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, and Slovakia, the collaborative provision accounts for just 6%. Next slide, please. Observations that can be derived from this distribution of partnerships and the types of TNE is basically, it signifies the scope for collaborations. a possible attribute which may explain the small percentage of collaborative TNE engagement between the UK and Central Europe may be limited knowledge of each other. I believe an event like today's, a conference like today's, is really aimed to increase awareness, but also facilitate knowledge of each other's systems, sectors, and each other's universities. Next slide, please. In terms of impact of transnational education and partnerships in particular, the way I've approached this subject is at two levels. An institutional perspective, what is the impact of such partnerships on those universities that collaborate with UK institutions? And at a second level, what is the impact of these programs on the actual students that take part in such programs? Next slide, please. Drawing on research carried out for the British Council, what we found out, and it is a well-documented positive relationship between a country's wealth and the participation in higher education. As country's wealth increases over time, so do the participation rates in tertiary education. The average participation rate globally is 39%. All of the EU countries and the countries in Central Europe are significantly above the world's average rate. What this is signifying in the space of international higher education research and collaboration is that it signifies the opportunities for scientific collaboration and research collaboration. And this is a dimension that I would really like to explore over the next couple of slides. Next slide, please. A research that we carried out globally about the impact of transnational education on partner universities. So these analytical findings draw on a survey with 120 universities across the world, but also 80 in-depth qualitative interviews with various stakeholders, including ministries of education and universities leaders. What we found out was that the way that universities choose their partners is really based on their reputation and status. In terms of how such partnerships can contribute to institutional development, it really depends on the local context. The areas where such contribution was found to be most pronounced is internationalization of the curriculum and the institution. And in Susanna's presentation earlier, we heard that many of those partnerships, or many of those programs, are actually taught in English. So by the sheer fact of teaching in the English language and bringing academic programs from at least two partners significantly intensifies the levels of internationalization and cooperation between the participating universities. The transnational education also broadens the higher education offering, and often this can manifest itself as a different way to engage with local students. It can be through the means of blended learning or through the means of online education. It reaches a very much atypical student base, and as such, it really evolves to accommodate the students' needs. It diversifies the teaching models and practices. This very much is derived from the fact that it accommodates teaching pedagogies that have been developed in two different national contexts. And it supports quality assurance practices. It builds on the strengths coming from two institutions. I mentioned the English taught programs, and Arce earlier took us through these programs in Poland, and I understand there are 661 programs that are already taught in the means of the English language in Poland. And again, this is an area that transnational education can widen and support. It also enhances and advances the recruitment of international students to the partner institution. This is very much happening through the means of teaching in the means of English language. TNE can also enhance and support the research capacity and scientific collaboration between institutions. This happens through the means of the establishment of joint doctoral schools. TNE promotes split-site PhD programs that often lead to joint and double degrees being awarded to the respective doctoral students. Also, two-way mobility of both students and staff, and it contributes significantly to the expansion of joint research publications and conference papers. Next slide, please. In our study, we also established the significant role of such partnerships to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We're drawing on 23 case studies, and we have developed a dedicated portal where these case studies are published. You can see it appears under one of the bullet points. The website is called TNE Impact. And should you consider to submit a case study that will be featured on that portal, please by all means get in touch with me and let us know about examples from your institution. While most substantial contribution is found to be in the area of improved quality of education, and this is a Sustainable Development Goal 4, transnational education also acts as a catalyst to achieve a broader SDG-specific impact. Areas where this is most pronounced is health and well-being, but also economic activity, and it promotes collaborations that lead to the achievement of the 17 goals. In the limited study that we've carried out, we established that TNE partnerships directly contribute to 15 out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So with the SDGs, it concludes the impact on universities, on the local TNE partner. My next few slides will draw on the impact on the actual students. As I mentioned, the transnational education student is really difficult to generalize because it varies according to their circumstances. The survey results that are presented on the chart here draws on a research that was recently concluded for the British Council, and it surveyed 352 TNE students in Europe. What we found out there is that unlike the locally enrolled typical student, many of the TNE students are mature, with almost half of the students that took part in the study were above the age of 30. These students can be in full-time education if they're younger, but most often we find out that they undertake a transnational education course alongside work commitments or other family responsibilities. A true surprise for us was to establish that many of the TNE students were actually international students. But also, given that those students are international, they also bring significant linguistic and cultural capital to the location where they undertake their study. Next slide, please. What we found out was that more than half of the students actually speak, or 2/3 of the students speak at least 2 languages. So 37% of the surveyed population were fluent in 3 languages, and almost a third of the students were fluent in 2 languages, and this is in addition to their mother tongue. I also mentioned that a significant proportion of the typical TNE student is likely to be international. In that study, we found that 45% of the survey respondents were from abroad, or they were mainly European students choosing to study in another European country. If I'm to take a step back here, I think what is interesting for the international student mobility in Europe is that the majority of the students, or 84% of the internationally mobile students in Europe, are coming from another European country. As such, drawing on the propensity to stay in the region at the higher education level, I think it is fair to assume that intensifying transnational education links between European institutions basically would capitalize on a growing interest across students that already have an established propensity to study and stay within the European region. Another finding that we established as a part of this research is the strong employability component. This may be linked with the fact that these students are likely to be mature and they already have existing either employability commitments or other form of commitments that makes it impossible for them to undertake full-time study. Around 87% of the students reported their TNE program had a significant impact on enhancing their skill sets, but also deepening their knowledge and expertise. We also established that a fifth of the students, they had a mobility component, which was part of their TNE program. This mainly included a period of study in the UK. This is typically happening in their final year. Almost half of the students that had such mobility component, they studied online, and the other half were enrolled at a local university. Another interesting finding that, in my opinion, came a little bit as a surprise was that some of the students, especially those that were enrolled on online programs, were doing their online course in parallel to an existing full-time education. As such, they were basically enrolled in two programs in parallel to each other. Next slide, please. And if I'm to bring this presentation to an end, I would really like to highlight the UK university's significant track record in transnational education partnerships. There is decades of experience and expertise that local universities can benefit from. But also the current levels of transnational education partnership signifies huge scope for improvement, and deepening the knowledge and understanding of each other, I think, can benefit equally all participating partners. The transnational education partnerships, they also offer significant potential to strengthen the research links between universities. Globally, what I'm observing is that joint and double PhDs are becoming more streamlined, and they're gaining a growing popularities with PhD students. So I'm observing this at three levels. At the national level, increasingly governments are investing into split-side PhD programs or research programs that lead to the award of a PhD degree from more than one university. At the institutional level, there is a huge interest to venture such joint doctoral avenues because they bring faculty staff together. And in addition to joint supervision, it also strengthens the research links and collaboration between research staff coming from two universities. And also it benefits the students because they don't have to leave their home country, or they can only spend a much shorter period of study abroad as a part of their dual or double PhD. And I would like to kind of break the mold and finish my slide with some questions. And my questions are really basically to universities that have joined today's discussion. What strategic objectives can benefit from partnerships? Are we talking about strengthening of internationalization at home targets? Or are we talking about goals that aspire to increase your university league table position? Or is it increase in research output that is produced in international collaboration? We know that this research benefits from significantly higher citation. Or are there international student recruitment targets that may be on the horizon that you want to work towards too? I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ilieva, Janet, for this very inspiring presentation, for sharing all the findings and lots of food for thought, and lots of questions actually to the audience. I think I've got one question maybe about how you work with higher education institutions. We are slightly sort of late with the time, but so maybe we'll just stick to one question. If you could maybe elaborate a bit how you work with stakeholders in the education sector.
There are kind of various ways of engagement, and it really depends on their particular task. I would urge you to have a look on the website, the Education Insight website, and you can see my flagship product, which is the Global Engagement Index. And it is an attempt to quantify global engagement and then measure universities' endeavors in achieving this global engagement. So there are about 36 indicators that have been quantified, and it's just an example of how institutions can approach or quantify any global engagement targets that they may possibly have. Another one is have a look at the TNE Impact website, where we're highlighting case studies from universities and trying to identify and promote excellence wherever it arises around the world. So these are various avenues to just give a perspective on what we are doing at Education Insight. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Janet, for the answers. Thank you so much once again. We are having a break now, a 5 minutes break. And I would like to encourage you to join us in 5 minutes to listen to a very exciting session from practitioners about how they went about transnational education in Central Europe. So thank you and see you in 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's my great pleasure to start the next session. And this is the case study session. I would like to introduce all the speakers in the order of their presentations. And there will be an opportunity to ask questions after all the presentations. As before, please post your questions in the chat bar or in the Q&A bar. So the first speaker would be Dr. Krzysztof Koi, Dean of WSB University in Poznań Chorzów campus. Next, John Dishman, Pro-Vice Chancellor and CEO of Coventry University Group, will speak. After John, Ben Matthews, Global Head of Partnerships at Lancaster University. And last but not least, Katarzyna Kacperczyk, Director of Center for International Collaboration at Warsaw School of Economics. So without further ado, Dr. Koi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Krzysztof, and I represent WSB Universities, probably the biggest private university group in Poland. From my perspective, I'd like to focus on 3 points. First, transnational educational partnerships usually change and influence institutions, but also, or even mainly, they change and influence people. Second, sometimes short-term projects may bring long-term results. And the third one, sometimes medium or even small-scale projects may have crucial impact on institution and people. So, as an example, I took a project run between WSB Chorzów Campus and Coventry University to establish an international MBA program. From our Chorzów perspective, in this project, we were looking for prestige in our portfolio. First lesson we learned was, and then we introduced it, and now we have it in our formal procedures, that when you look for a partner, or even you consider looking for a future partner, you shouldn't approach to this negotiation in the usual traditional negotiation way, which is called by the Americans, what's in it for me? It's much better to approach your partner, or even before you approach him, to think it over. What's in it for us? What's in it for you? What's in it for them? That makes looking for win-win situation much easier. Therefore, our first lesson learned then, it was to analyze Coventry University's strategy, our strategy, and find the answers to key questions. What are we looking for? Quality, quantity, prestige, money, or for-profit institution, private university? These were crucial questions those days. So then we learned the lesson. Now we have it in our procedure. The lesson between WSB and Coventry University was undertaken during our negotiation on these major goals and then on curriculum development. Next interesting problem was, usually when we have our partnerships and then we have effects of our partnerships, these effects are being evaluated by someone, some institutions, sometimes some accreditation bodies. Here, it was our first experience that both partners have developed some project, and this project was evaluated by external examiners, external validation, competitive to Coventry University, institution from the United Kingdom. It was something new. Now we think that this approach might be implemented in our organization, and I will tell you about it in a minute. I will not focus on the lessons learned from managing European Union project, because our project, our program was run within the framework of European Union financing. I will not focus on that. I'm a dean, I'm a lecturer, so let's proceed with educational, didactic issues, just to mention. Of course, we've learned a lot about financing, procedures, requirements, and all the bureaucracy concerning European Union projects. And I'll mention some marketing problems. Yeah, marketing. Double degree. Providing a program in Polish or English language, in local or English language. Is it important from marketing point of view? Does it bring more prestige or not to your customers? We should always ask a question, are these issues important to the people we would like to sell our educational product? Lessons learned. Well, looking at this slide, you may tell me, hey, Christoph, we are in 2023 and you're coming back to learning outcomes approach. Now it's obvious. Now it's must have. Yeah, now. But you may remember, even from your institutions, a change that you've introduced from teaching standards perspective into learning outcomes approach. Was it difficult? I think so. It was not a piece of cake. So, thanks to our university colleagues from Coventry University, we've come through this process from defining, cascading, and implementing learning outcomes approach. We, that means the dean, who as the lecturer participated in working out the details of all this procedure, when Polish Ministry of Education imposed and required this approach a few years later, we were prepared as the institution, with our procedures and with our attitude. Great lesson learned. Next one. Requirements towards the teaching staff. We have this discussion, we still have it. How to deal with academic freedom, lecturers, professors who are free to teach wherever they teach, who are free to deliver their practice, their examples. However, this should happen within the framework of our quality, methodology, standards. Difficult question, but we'll learn how to do it. We touched this problem, and now we have quite good procedures concerning that. Next, quality assessments, tools and measures, much more sophisticated than only asking students about their opinions. Again, this has become a future requirement from Polish Ministry of Higher Education, then from Polish Accreditation Committee, and we were prepared. It was also useful for international accreditations. All of you know, how is it complicated, difficult, or easy to fulfill all the standards concerning quality assessment tools? How is it difficult or easy to have them, introduce them, describe them? We had a great practice within this project. Therefore, it was easier for us to approach for international accreditations. Moreover, these procedures concerning assessment tools, quality assessment tools, were useful for us for future transnational education partnerships within Europe and United States of America, or even the Sultanate of Oman, where I personally teach, and I'm using these standards in cooperation with them. This typically UK standard, external examiners. In Poland, WSB universities are a group of universities. Well, a group, but formally independent schools. We are considering the idea of implementing external examiners within the group, helping to prove and then check and then increase quality, for instance, of dissertations or projects provided by single individual students at our campuses, universities, being checked by our colleagues from the other university. Important lesson learned concerning cooperation with the environment. Probably for all of you, it's now obvious that we should cooperate with business and administration sector and let them influence our programs. That's obvious. But those days, we've learned from Coventry University how to develop this idea, then how to prepare procedures, how to reach for the partners, how to convince them to cooperate with us, how to provide feedback, to assure them that they are really having an influence on our teaching programs. We were within the pioneers. We were certainly not the pioneer, not the only one, but we were within the group of pioneers in Poland to introduce kind of business partnerships programs between universities and surrounding. And this has become a future common requirement, must have. Nowadays in Poland, you have to have such a partnerships, again, like with a learning outcomes approach and measuring the quality level. Here, we were prepared in terms of procedure, in terms of belief, and in terms of real implementation of this cooperation. This helped us to have a conversation on defining competitive advantages. Mind you, we are a private university. We always consider, why are we competitive? What should we do to be more competitive? We had an interesting discussion, useful for me in the future, for instance, in negotiation with British and American partners, in terms of understanding our degree system. As I mentioned, this project was about establishing an MBA program, MBA, Master in Business Administration. In Poland, MBA programs are not necessarily a master's degree. During the qualification procedures, or within the qualification procedures, we demand to have a master's degree to join this program. For our British and American partners, it might be difficult to understand that the MBA, Master in Business Administration, is not actually a master degree. Having the lesson learned from my cooperation with Coventry University, it was easier for me to explain it to our future partners and future accreditations. And again, just to mention all these European Union procedures, project management procedures, quite important to manage the projects. And how about benefits? Well, obviously, lessons learned are the most important benefits. Good practices that I've mentioned before are the key lesson learned and benefits. But generally speaking, as I said, this was a huge impact on our organizational culture in terms of organization and people. People, well, I understand the dean and all the managers and lecturers, trainers, educators. We've had lots of discussion, we've developed lots of procedures, and we've implemented them and then redeveloped them in terms of program preparation, evaluation, updates, marketing, prices, admission process, teaching process, staff, quality assessment, organization, relations with the surroundings. I've mentioned this already. But also kind of positioning of our teaching programs. Well, we've been working here on executive education level, but the procedures we've learned from our Coventry University friends, we've introduced at the bachelor's level, master's level, PhD, postgraduate, and so on. We try to understand how do clients, students in Poland, look at a language as a kind of prestige or just a language, just a tool. We found a different approach from Coventry University and some other partners. Some of them say, well, it's a prestige. Some of them say, it's just a tool. We had a discussions whether it's difficult, easy, or important, not important, to deliver double degree, joint degree, or just a degree with cooperation with, or the degree where the quality is assured by foreign international partner. And the great lesson, not only in terms of discussion, but also action, the difference between active partners, well, Coventry University, absolutely, totally active partner, and sleeping partners. Now we try to recognize whether a future partner in any enterprise should be sleeping, and then we should exclude him, or active one. And this, what I've told you, was also a starting point for international accreditations in terms of crucial impact in the long term. So when I come back to my first slide, a kind of introductory slide, now you can see is more complicated. Why? Because now we have an IACB accreditation, ACCA accreditation. We are the member of European Association for International Education. Personally, I'm connected to one American university and a school in Oman. Well, this happened because when you play with a Premier League player, when you train and exercise with a Premier League player, then you can survive and achieve almost everything. For this, having John Dishman with us, the person that I've never personally met, but representing Coventry University, having him, I'd like to extend my gratitude for the partners that have been working with us on small-scale project, short-term project, having long-term and huge scale, well, crucial, I would say, effect on our institution and people. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Well, thank you very much, Christoph. Very nice to meet you. We've not met before, as you say, but very, very nice to meet you. My piece today is a little bit about how Coventry University operates in terms of transnational education and how much we're involved in it at the moment. And then moving on to that, to talk about a particular type of transnational education in terms of us developing a branch campus in Poland. Again, hopefully pick up some of the questions which were muted earlier on. Very happy to do that. So Coventry University is really quite active in terms of TNE. So we've currently got, I counted them, 18,000 students currently in TNE partnerships at this current time, 55 partners across the globe. As mentioned earlier, many of those in South and Southeast Asia, but increasingly in the Middle East, Africa, quite a few in the EU now, and more recently in Central America as well. And these tend to be franchised developments, so programs that either we develop and our partners use our programs, or programs that our partner develops and we validate those programs. We have on top of that a certain amount of online as well, but I've not included that in these numbers. I think what hasn't been mentioned previously so far as I recall, is that the use of badged campuses, and I think that's increasing over the recent period. And we have badged campuses in Egypt and in China, where we don't own the property and we don't employ the teachers, but all the teaching staff and the programs delivered are Coventry University programs. And we have further developments in that direction in Morocco and in Bangladesh. So that is a more recent development where it's a larger scale version of a TNE program, rather than perhaps franchising or validating single courses. And that seems to be the direction which we're moving to. We have a dedicated unit, which I'm sure Christoph will have come across, our academic partnership unit, and they are there to manage the whole process from the initial introduction all the way through to validation and assigning of linked tutors and building the relationship forward. As I said, two main models: progression agreements, where we recognise against our entry requirements for students to study in the UK, but more importantly in this instance, collaborative delivery, either validation or dual awards. And that, as I said, can be whether or not the institution itself devises their programme and we validate it, or they use one of our programmes and deliver it locally in their institution. I hope these slides are going to be available, because this is probably a little bit small for you, but that gives you the sort of various steps that are involved in forming a TNE partnership with Coventry University. It's a process which is very well documented, and there's a real procedure to it, and we have a dedicated team who manage this process. I think it works really rather well. I'll just say a moment or two about Coventry University Wrocław. So this is a branch campus, so this is not a validation, it's not a TNE partnership, it is Coventry University's own branch based in Poland. We were the first foreign university to open in Poland, and my thanks in particular to the Deputy Minister today for all the support that the Ministry gave us in establishing our campus. We're established as a foreign entrepreneurs, we're not part of the higher education sector in Poland, and so we won't appear in ARTA's figures. So we're entirely regulated by UK authorities. We are a private university in much of the way that WSB is a private university. So students need to pay, and you'll remember that most public education in Poland is free to Polish nationals. We also have about 85% of the students we have are from Poland. Increasingly, we're seeing numbers of students who are from Ukraine, and we have a special scholarship program for those students, and the rest of the students come from the European Union. There's a peppering of students outside the EU, but we haven't really come into Poland to try to attract large numbers of international students. We're there to become part of the educational social ecosystem and provide a contribution, particularly to the city of Wrocław. And we have strong links with the universities there. We're a member of the Wrocław Academic Hub, which, if you know that part of the world, you know about that. All the main universities are part of that, and we collaborate in many ways with a number of the universities. This is what we offer: UK degrees taught in English. It's exactly the same experience for students get in Poland that they would get in the UK. Opportunities for students to study part of the time in the UK as they just follow the same programme, but study part of the course in the UK. It is very much a post-Brexit offer. Although we started in 2016, we hadn't envisaged that Brexit would necessarily take place. It's been a real huge opportunity for us to offer this experience in Poland. That's our campus there. You can see the sorts of courses. It's very much still in the development stage. We've been open for just 2 years. It'll be our 3rd year in September of operation. We run mainly business, cyber, IT type programs, but increasingly the biosciences and interest in games development is something which we're interested in. We also run the MBA there as well. So quite a range of things, but again, all these courses are available in exactly the same form in the UK. One of the things someone mentioned earlier on did Brexit have an impact on TNE? We found it has. So you'll be aware that member states of the European Union have to decide whether or not they can be validated or work in TNE arrangements with a third country. And obviously the UK is the third country. So we've been approached by a number of different institutions who are trying to seek clarity with their governments or their federal governments to see whether or not they're allowed to have a TNE relationship with the UK. One example where they're not is in Sweden, and so we have formed a very strong partnership now with the Swedish higher education institution, and we provide TNE to them, but from our Poland campus, because our Poland campus is recognised as an EU campus. The picture on there is people in Poland will recognise this. This is for the dancing in the Polonaise, which took place last week in Poland, and myself and my colleague in blue there, you'll see we took part of that activity with colleagues from different universities in the city. One other thing, I think, because we've had research mentioned a number of times now, we have established our own research institute in Europe. This is a fairly new development. It's about 12 months old. And that's a Polish subsidiary of Coventry University of the branch. So unlike the branch, which is a UK institution operating in Poland, this is actually a Polish subsidiary. So it has access to European research funds and research funds, either from the Polish state or via the Polish state from the European Union. And for that, we have formed a new relationship with the Ukasiewicz Research Network, and we're a member of CESOMAT, which is a biomedical sciences organisation. We were at Warsaw University of Science and Technology last week, talking to them, signing that agreement. So I think it has been said, the opportunities for transnational research activities, I think, are huge. And particularly Poland the level of research activities is really quite fantastic. So we're really honoured to be part of those organisations. And we're an associate of FPPP, the Foundation for Industry 4.0 as well. So it's not only the links through transnational education where a simple franchise relationship, but if actually we feel we are embedding ourselves to become part of the educational infrastructure of Poland. So we support the city and the country in terms of providing work-ready graduates, but also opportunities for research, which we undertake, particularly in the UK. So I hope that gives a flavour of the sorts of activities we are doing in Poland, and happy to receive any questions as required. Thank you.
Hello, great to be with you all today. I'm Ben Matthews. I'm Associate Director for Global Engagement at Lancaster University. So it was been great today, this morning, to hear so many different examples from other universities around Europe in respect of developing their own collaborations in Central Europe. I was asked to talk a little bit about the campus that we as Lancaster have in Germany. A bit about our strategy in terms of TNE, which other colleagues have touched on already in some of the talks, and also to talk about some of the challenges and some of the opportunities we see going forward. So I'll try and do that in a little under 10 minutes now. So in terms of our strategy overall, for us, transnational education is very much embedded as part of who we are as an institution. We don't see it as that single point of revenue. It's very much about extending our global community. It's about building our reputation and profile internationally, our standing in terms of delivering a high quality education. Also in terms of developing research opportunities as well. So for us, this is very much about teaching, research and engagement, taking all aspects of the university's strategy, and those are the three pillars that we have for Lancaster, overseas, so we can build connections and really understand in a significant and deep way how we might make a contribution to the areas in the globe that we're operating. So just a few kind of points that sit behind that graph, and I guess the kind of, if you like, the data behind our strategy. So one of the things we, in common with other universities, would do is, of course, look to our international global standing in terms of the league tables. And you can see Lancaster's position has fluctuated slightly, and this is the QS and THE ranking. But really the point I'd like to make is 2 points. One, to echo points other colleagues have already made, that international collaborations, particularly in respect of research, are what get your research known. So collaborating with international academics is certainly what increases the volume and visibility of research outputs, the citations, the field-weighted research citation average. But for Lancaster, in common with a number of other universities, in respect of how we might wish to increase our rankings, is the fact that we need to be known for the research we do. We rate very highly in terms of hard measures, the citation output, but we need to be more known. And you can see the difference in the little shield here between those 2 points. So really, TNE is also part of that communication exercise, being known around the world, being a university that people would turn to. Just to give you a quick footprint, John just talked about kind of badge campuses, and that's very much the approach we've taken at Lancaster. So we have 5 campuses around the world, including the one that we have established in the 1960s in Belrig, Lancashire, northwest of England. We have campuses in Ghana, in Malaysia, in China, and most recently in Leipzig in Germany, which for obvious reasons is the focus today for my kind of case study. So just to give you an idea of what our global student community looks like, these blocks in red on the left-hand side are the students studying at Lancaster in the UK. All the other multicoloured blocks are students studying outside of our campus. And actually, if you like, our TNE journey, it wasn't transnational, started in the region, working with the local FE colleges, so pre-university age students initially, but enabling local colleges to deliver access to higher education, and then in later years full higher education accredited degrees in a local setting. So those connections we have with our local communities such as Blackpool and the Fylde and Blackburn on the doorstep of Lancaster actually set the path for Lancaster to then in future develop this similar approach overseas through transnational education. So to set it into context with other universities, this is a selection of universities who Lancaster would often benchmark itself against, and you can see that proportionally for our size, we deliver a lot of TNE. We heard earlier in the data that a lot of universities are involved in transnational education, but actually by volume, that's skewed towards quite a relatively small subset of those institutions that are in the UK that are reporting overseas education delivery. So, of course, as we think about how we go forward, I think we need to acknowledge the challenges that we have and the strategic challenges. These apply for the university as a whole as much as they do for transnational education. But there are, of course, these global headwinds. I shan't want to repeat things people have said before, but Brexit, the loss of kind of direct access to the Erasmus programme, the frustrations that we've had with the Horizon programme do make collaboration difficult for us. And I think from my perspective, one of the things we've really recognised is how much those systems enabled, and we relied on them, and we're having to rebuild our own infrastructure really in terms of how we keep in contact and develop relationships with universities across Europe, because losing access to those systems, particularly in terms of Erasmus and Horizon, is really challenging, and I think it needs to be acknowledged as a challenge in developing TNE in the ways that we're describing. And of course, the differential in fee rate between the UK and other parts of Europe is also challenging as well. We as an institution want to diversify. For example, our campus in the UK will be full in terms of the number of students in the years to come, we're predicting. So we really want to ensure that we've got the capacity to grow and develop and have this international reach. So diversification is about diversification for us, kind of spreading our recruitment internationally, but also in terms of where our students are studying around the world. I think also a really important point for the opportunities of collaboration with those in the room today is about the climate emergency. And of course, there's a real opportunity that connections between universities in Europe are much lower in terms of their climate impact than ones in other parts of the world. And you've seen where we've got other campuses on my prior slide. So we as a university have committed to, we've signed a climate emergency pledge. We've committed to being net carbon neutral by 2030 or 2035, depending on which scope of emissions we look at. But the real challenge for us as a university, and I suspect shared with many others, is those scope 3 emissions. How do you reduce emissions from the higher education that you deliver through students travelling across the globe to either attend the UK or from the UK out? And I think these collaborations in Europe play a special part in that, and I think it's quite exciting what could be achieved. So I think there's a real focus in there being able to live our values in respect of the climate emergency with the collaborations that we might all form here. So just to show you, I just wanted to kind of share a little bit of data. This is Lancaster's actual enrolments from Central Europe over a period from 2013 through to 22, and you can see quite dramatically when the fees regime changed, when we moved from offering home EU fees on comparable levels to to EU students having to pay the international fee. So there was quite a dramatic change. This next slide is actually the UCAS data. This is actually for all UK universities, and the latest data of this was actually issued last night at midnight, released for public use. And really, other than in Poland, what the UCAS data is telling us is there is actually an uptick from UCAS applications coming from Central Europe to UK universities. And I see this as a real positive, not because it's just a one-dimensional view onto recruitment coming to the UK, but actually a signal about student movement. And I think that's a bit of a bellwether for how we can develop other forms of collaboration, because often that student movement leads on to other forms of connection, and where that's frustrated, and you can see that huge drop off on that graph initially, that does create issues for other types of collaboration as well. So really pleased to see there's an uptake, and let's hope that's echoed in years to come as well. I promised to say a little bit about our campus in Europe. It's a partnership with Navitas, who are a private education provider. It's a badged campus as Lancaster University, and it was established at least in part as a response to Brexit. It was established before Brexit occurred, but it does give us the ability as a university to operate within Germany, and very much kind of echoing what John and Coventry were saying before. We really see this as a broad spectrum engagement with the region, and the reason I'm excited to share it with you as well is that I think that the campus we have in Germany is also a springboard to connect with other parts of Europe, doing this blended approach in terms of research connections, also in terms of other types of TNE, using our German campus as a base. So we've really conceived it as that. Just to give you an idea of some of the programs that we've got running there as well. We've recently introduced a new number of postgraduate programs, so that's how we've developed things. So the thing with our experience with TNE is, of course, the badged campuses are huge amounts of investment in terms of time, organizational attention, requiring incredibly senior level organization sign off to achieve, and they have a long gestation period to bring to fruition. And I think there are challenges I trying to show in the graph before in terms of the difference of fee levels between our nations, also the frustrations that we've got around the removal of the European collaborative frameworks at this moment in time. And I suppose I was reflecting on that, thinking that actually there's a real opportunity to have simple points of connection between institutions. And actually, I think often there's a great value when you have an initial meeting with another institution, there's some chemistry, having some simple ways to collaborate, to start building connections with the institution really helps keep the rhythm of connection and allows the institutions to get to know one another, and then that journey can then develop to more ambitious and more complicated arrangements in respect of TNE over a period of time. So for us, again, echoing what we've said in terms of the climate emergency, we're developing and trying to significantly scale our undergraduate research conference that we deliver online. So students coming together, sharing their passion for their subject through a kind of peer organised event. But we're really seeing that as a way of bringing that global community of students together. And of course, initiatives like Global Classrooms and COIL will be familiar to many people here. So we've set aside resources in the institution to invest in that and encourage partners to work with us. So just briefly, lessons learned in terms of our TNE. I think really echoing many of the points people have made already, being really clear about the point of mutual interest between the parties, exploring for us teaching, research and engagement from the outside, looking for those kind of multiple wins, if you like, so that you see multiple ways that a universities can collaborate with one another. And I suppose we're also trying to underpin it with a values approach. So thinking about the principles that we have in respect of our TNE. Being a good partner, I think, is incredibly important in the period ahead. We have ambitions to grow and develop our TNE activities, but we know that we will be able to work with the best partners around the world if we also behave as a best partner, kind of, similar attraction in that point. So we believe that earning trust and being transparent in our approach is really important. We look through the combination, what's the added value of the partners coming together, and I think being able to articulate that is really important and helps with the business case. It also helps with the outputs in terms of teaching, research and engagement as well. And of course, that transparency needs to be underpinned by secure governance, so that there are clear frameworks in place to manage differences of opinion should they arise during the partnership, but also thinking about the exit strategy that both institutions would have, and that can feel a little kind of counterproductive to discuss from the start. But I think being clear how the relationship will end and sharing those shared aspirations, I guess, for the partnership is really important from the start. So thank you for your time, and I'll hand over to the next speaker.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. I'm a director of Center for International Cooperation at SGH Warsaw School of Economics, and today I will present some of our best practices and experiences on how we shape our international cooperation and what elements or what strategies we are applying can be used also to strengthen the cooperation with British universities and higher education institutions. So perhaps I will start with a few words about SGH Warsaw School of Economics. We are the oldest public economic university in Poland and also the best economic university in Poland with accreditations of EQUIS and AMBA and also some other accreditations. For those who are not very familiar with SGH, so this is a university who is famous for shaping leaders of political, economic, and social and business life. So a lot of prime ministers, deputy ministers, commissioners, members of the parliaments have been graduates of SGH Warsaw School of Economics, and still this tradition or supporting public policies, business, and being very much involved with our alumni holding high-level position in governments and other business companies. So it's still present at our school. We are all, in addition to the accreditations I have already mentioned, we are also member of different alliances. I mention it not without the reason, because the alliances we are part of together with other partner universities are also a very useful element or instrument to develop cooperation also with the UK partners. Maybe some numbers. We have no faculty structure at SGH. However, we have 5 collegia responsible for research. As far as studies level are concerned, so we are centralized, but the collegia, I mentioned them, the names below, they're responsible mostly for research, in particular economic areas, but also in issues pertaining to social sciences and to public policies and international affairs as well. We have around 766 faculty members, and among them 65 full professors and over 200 associate professors and almost 340 assistant professors. We have over 11,000 full-time students and around 10% of internationalization rates, which is maybe not that high comparing to some other universities worldwide, but it's also well diversified and well balanced as far as SGH's international student body is regarded. We have almost 300 PhD students, and also what is very typical for SGH is a lot of postgraduate certified programs for graduate, postgraduates, for business people, for members of different institutions, NGOs. So we have almost 4,000 postgraduate and postdiploma students. In terms of academic offers, so we offer a variety courses and programs in English. We have 4-degree programs in English and 4-degree at bachelor level, 4 programs in English at master level, and also 2 tracks at our doctoral school entirely in English. SGH is also famous for the international cooperation. We have partnerships with over 300 partner universities worldwide, and we have a very well-developed exchange of students. Annually, we receive 1,000 students and send also 1,000 students in abroad. So this is by far probably one of the highest number comparing to the total number of students in Poland. So probably the reason behind this also that, I mean, not only the high quality of education, but also the high quality of teaching of foreign languages at SGH. Some speakers have also mentioned the double degree diplomas. So we have currently 20 double degree and joint diplomas programs. And this is something also, the framework we have well developed as SGH, and it can be also applied to the cooperation with the British universities. I will move briefly to the concrete examples, how we structure and how we pursue the cooperation with British partners. We have not we have quite few partner universities in UK currently, among others the Edinburgh Napier University, but also universities, some Imperial College London, University of Bristol, and some others. We are now negotiating two new partnerships. So we hope that the number will increase, but also we hope that the partnership will be of, meaningful and high quality. The scope of cooperation is also quite well developed. So the first area, probably also of interest to many other universities, is the exchange of students and staff within the Erasmus Plus scheme. I have heard in one of the presentation that how challenging is the fact that UK moved out or withdrew from Erasmus Plus scheme. But from our perspective, there is still a possibility within the Erasmus Plus program to finance mobilities from the scholarship available within the program. This is a system where we can move some grants, some mobilities from our regular Erasmus budget we call it for the Region 14, which includes also UK. So it's up to 25% of mobility. So we can move for cooperation with United Kingdom. So looking at this, so we have still resources from Erasmus Plus scheme to finance our students, faculty, and staff, which would wish to go to the UK, either for exchange semester or for developing of cooperations, research cooperation or didactic cooperation, or for some training. Of course, the challenge is how the UK will finance or would finance the exchange and mobilities, students, staff, and faculty which would wish to come to SGH or to other Polish universities. So the current scheme, which should, as we have learned, reply the Erasmus on a British side, doesn't work that well, but this is something probably we have to work on so that the mobilities can be two ways. Other option also for cooperation are the classical bilateral agreements. Usually with all the British universities with whom we were working on Erasmus Plus as well. So we have with them also these bilateral agreements where we can exchange students on a basis of tuition fee waiver, but without scholarship. And the last option is the free mover. So students from both universities can also come to university universities and took some courses, but this is the payment for tuition for courses is obligatory. So it's maybe less interesting proposal, providing the difference with fees between Poland and British universities. Joint program I have mentioned a little bit. So this is something which we would be also very much open to explore and strengthen in the cooperation with our UK partner. The system is that students are spending 1 year at home university and 1 year at partner universities. Of course, that the challenge is also to agree on common curricula within such a joint program. But as I mentioned, we have over 20 of such programs, so a lot of experience and also a lot of interest, both from SGH but also from the partners who are implementing with us the joint or double degree programs. One element I would also mention to encourage, or which could help actually to stimulate and to encourage further cooperation with UK universities, is joint cooperation within the platforms gathering a lot of many universities. We are cooperating with UK universities within several networks. For instance, CEMS, the Alliance for in Business and Social Sciences Economic School in the area of management. Here, our partner is the London School of Economics and Political Science. And we are pursuing a joint certificate program. So the students are spending like a part of the studies at home universities and then going to the partner university, and by the end of the education, then they receive like a diploma from the home university and joint certificate from the CEMS Alliance. Another element I would mention is the recent phenomena, which is the European University Initiative, run currently by the European Commission. So SGH is a member of Civica Alliance, together inter alia with LSE again. And this is also an example how to make like a better harmonization of policies, strategies among universities, but also a good example of integration, in fact, of universities. So our cooperation with LSE without the Civica alliances actually includes all the area of functioning of the universities, including mobilities, research, but also building a digital campus, harmonizing and integrating the library resources, PhD, and also even international cooperation vis-a-vis external partners. So it's a very deep partnership, but it is also an example how we can stimulate the cooperation with the UK university, not only within our bilateral frameworks of cooperation, but also within other networks of universities. And the last two networks, we are also cooperating with UK universities. It's the PIM, this is a Partnership in Management Alliance, and also Global Business School Networks, GBSN, and a lot of UK universities are partnering in this network with SGH, and there are also a lot of initiatives which are run within this network. Excellent also opportunity to strengthen both bilateral but also multi-university cooperation. The other aspect where we can cooperate, and also where we also see more interest from students, especially from students, but also PhD and partly also faculty, are the short programs. Because I mean, many students are working and cannot allow themselves in 21st century to go for a semester or for a year for exchange. So we prepared also like short-term programs like 2 weeks or 3 weeks programs, or tailor-made programs, which include not only didactic components, but also business, cultural, and also some integration networking components. Some of the programs we finance through different external sources, including like a CEPUS scholarship, but also through Erasmus Plus or from commercial resources. But from our experience, we run such programs with different universities, and this is also a good framework to start to work with UK university. And my last point is research. There are still a lot of possibilities to enter into the joint projects with UK partner universities. First, it's of course the Jean Monnet activities, where UK is still eligible to be part of. And then also still Horizon Europe as associated country. And I would mention also a very good instrument, which is NAVA framework. We had today the representatives of NAVA, and we heard a lot about the scholars and scientific cooperation, but I encourage you also to look at NAVA website, because NAVA offered a lot of institutional programs, like for instance, international academic partnerships, projects like Welcome to Poland, where we can partner also with UK universities, and at SGH we have implemented 2 projects within international academic partnerships with the participation of UK universities. So there are like no limitations pertaining to UK not being a part of the EU. So this is absolutely also a great mechanism and instrument we can use to stimulate the cooperation between Polish and UK university. So I will end here for the sake of the time. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or comments, so I will be happy to answer them, or you can also contact me at SGH directly for any issues pertaining to the cooperation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Katarzyna. Thank you to all of the speakers, all the presenters for the fantastic presentations, a wealth of information, fantastic examples of collaboration and lessons learned, which I'm sure are of particular value to our audience. I'm deeply conscious of the time ticking. I would like to ask one question, if I may. How well developed are potential students' English language skills in Central Europe? And perhaps I would like to have a very brief answer from one of the presenters. Is there somebody willing to respond to this question very briefly? May I ask perhaps?
I can. The English language abilities of the students is very high. However, we do set a requirement, either an IELTS requirement or we have our own test that we do from Coventry University for English speaking and writing. And then if people do need support, we've got online and some local support for that if students need extra English. But in our experience, the students are very, very good in English.
Excellent. Thank you very much, John. So apologies, but I think we'll have to leave those questions, and I'm delighted to announce another speaker. Joan, the next speaker is Joanna Chodecka, Projects and Partnership Manager at British Council in Warsaw. Joanna will tell us about this great initiative supporting TNE partnerships. Joanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eva. Well, it's a great pleasure to be a part of this event, so thank you very much for inviting me. Today, I'm going to tell you about a new activity of the British Council's Going Global Partnerships program that is called the Internationalization Learning Cohorts. It's a program designed to support institutions and their employees to develop their knowledge and understanding of a variety of topics within internationalization. Through a series of expert-led discussions, presentations, and peer-to-peer networking, participants will have the opportunity to build knowledge around key frameworks, themes, and trends within internationalization and transnational education. Additionally, case studies will provide participants the opportunity to hear from their UK counterparts about their transnational education operations and long-term objectives. Sessions will be hosted online on a weekly basis, and legacy sessions will also take place once the cohort has come to close, which allows participants to continue network with the cohort peers and the wider higher education sectors in the UK. The training provider is the IC Global Partnership, which is an organization providing development and training opportunities both to individuals and institutions within internationalization and globalization of education industry. All the trainers who are going to deliver the training are professionals with a very big experience in higher education sector. Charlene Allen is the first one. She's chair of the British Universities International Liaison Association, BOILA. She also has great experience in internalization projects and in lobbying on internationalization matters. There is also Cyril Miles, who also is a very experienced international leader. She worked at the British Council Istanbul promoting British education. She also worked at the University of Southampton as regional director, and also then she continued as director of the international office at the University of Reading, and then she also joined responsibility of the university's marketing, communication, and engagement. And Chris Hill, who's worked in the international education for many years. He is a fellow of Higher Education Academy. He's also an adjunct researcher for the Higher Education and Accreditation Council of Taiwan, and his research interest includes transnational education and its impact on national systems. Let me now quickly go through the themes. There are 4 of cohort themes. Poland is organizing, participating 2 of them. The first one is understanding transnational education cohort, and this one is, let's say, on a national level, and it is dedicated to undergraduate studies management for international cooperation, to vice rectors, rectors, plenipotentiaries for international cooperation. It is also dedicated to faculty advisors, and this cohort will explain what role transnational education plays in contemporary higher education. So models, modes, and growth areas will be discussed. We are currently recruiting participants. We are looking for a group of 16 representatives to join. And the next one is International Postgraduate Education Cohort, which is dedicated to postgraduate and doctoral studies. And this one is about a review of the critical role that postgraduate education has in addressing complex local research problems and bringing research talent to the university. For this cohort, we are going to recruit 2 to 3 representatives. Let me quickly go through the skills that any participant must present to join the cohort. So obviously an excellent command of English is absolutely necessary in order to be able to discuss very complex topics, both with native and non-native English speakers. We are looking for 1 participant per higher education institution. Also, ability to commit to all sessions is absolutely necessary, as well as interest in developing transnational education with the UK market. And also, we are looking for participants who are confident and comfortable when it comes to developing conversations outside of webinars and when articulating discussions. When it comes to dates and times, like I mentioned before, the cohorts are going to be hosted on a weekly basis, which means Understanding Transnational Education cohort is going to be hosted every Wednesday, starting from the 8th of March. And the International Postgraduate Education is going to be hosted every Monday starting from the 27th of February, and this time is Central Europe time, the time that you can see on the screen. And most importantly, how to apply to the cohort. So there are 2 ways. You can either use the QR code that you can see on the screen at the moment that will take you directly to the registration form, or you can contact my colleague, Patricia Koelner, who will provide you with an individual link to the registration. Obviously, you can reach out to me as well, because I will be more than happy to answer any questions or doubts regarding the cohorts. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you so much. And now I will have a great pleasure to announce our last speaker, very last but not least, a very important speaker, Rupert Daniels, Director of Services and Skills at the new DBT, yes, Department for Business and Trade, previously called Department for International Trade Department. Rupert, over to you. I'm aware that your time is short, but thank you very much for joining us.
Can you hear me okay? Is that coming through?
Very well, yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody. I've been listening into the presentations throughout the day, and fascinating to hear, because also my background is education. I used to be, before I joined the civil service, I was the global marketing director for Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So hearing everything about IELTS scores and bands and working in partnership is something which I'm really very keen on and work very closely on. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thanks to the organisers at Universities UK International, the British Embassy in Warsaw, and I nearly said DIT HQ, but Department for Business and Trade is our new name. And I'm very grateful to everybody who presented as well and shared their knowledge, their experiences and their expertise of TNE over the last couple of hours. So I think what we've heard today is that the UK is a leading provider of transnational education, and we offer such a wide range of higher education institutions using a variety of delivery models. So It's great to see. It's great to see that there's some kind of also rebound in numbers as well. And Europe is, of course, the UK's second largest TNE market after Asia, with about 96,000 students, and that's still going up 8.8% since 2019-20, and we still have this strong growth in demand. So thanks to everybody. I think we can continue to work on our endeavours, given the pressures that we've got with Brexit, but still that high demand coming back in. I think as we've come out of COVID, as we've started to understand what Brexit really means, it means that Central European universities can really be a natural fit for the TNE partnership with the UK. So thanks again to all the speakers. We've got this virtual room with strong experience and internationalisation, and it's great to have this hybrid session, and perhaps we can do something face-to-face soon as well. So I just wanted to say that the team, my team, thanks very much to my team and the team out at Post as well in Warsaw. Thanks for putting this together. We remain ready to help. Contact us if you've got any issues, you've got any questions that come up. We've got a great team working all across the UK, all across Europe, and we'd be delighted to support your plans and share our advice and our experience on what's next after this event. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ava. Thanks for having me. I've just really enjoyed this morning. So thanks to everybody and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupert. Thank you so much. And the very last words from me, obviously, thank you very much to our excellent co-organizers, Universities UK international colleagues, Valentina, Alex, Joanna. It's been brilliant. And obviously to our absolutely fantastic presenters, our guests, and also thank you to the audience for your participation, for your active participation. The program was very full, very packed, so sorry we rushed a bit. It has like delay, so not enough questions. This is just the first event, very beginning, so assure you that we will continue looking at this topic, and I just wish to let you know that we've prepared a brief survey, which we will be sending to you alongside with the slides, which were promised in the beginning, and the recording of the webinar of this event on YouTube. We'll be extremely grateful if you could take a moment and complete this survey and send it back to us. It gives us a lot of food for thought and sort of the grounds and the material to work on going forwards. And we'll be definitely keeping in touch with you, and we'll keep you posted of our future initiatives, events and activities. And as Rupert said, we hope to meet you in person very soon. So thank you so much again, and I wish you a very nice afternoon, and let's stay in touch. Please put your contacts in the bar, and I will put mine, but I think most of you have got. Thank you.